Thank you, Jen, and good evening. As I promised my community, I've come back to provide additional information. Bearing in mind, as Ms. Donlin noted, we are less than 12 hours into this, and this is not, as she said, CSI. So, one of the questions advanced to me was with respect to the nature of this engagement. What I can tell you based on video that I have personally seen is that the suspect in this, Mr. Tyndall, advanced upon our officer and fired 5 times with a shotgun. Our officer, and I want to be very clear about this, was grievously wounded and lost his life in this confrontation. Our officer found himself in that circumstance because he was protecting a neighbor who had sought his assistance with an ongoing dispute with the suspect. There were questions about the nature of that, and I will be clear. Mr. Tyndall involved in relationships with 3 separate individuals. He has an ex-wife, he has the estranged wife, which was principal to the events today, and then currently is in a relationship with another individual. His ex-wife and his estranged wife have both sought protection from the courts because of his violent behavior. His ex-wife and his current wife have both sought protection from the courts because of his violent behavior. After the confrontation with our officer, he took our officer's weapon. No shots were fired from that weapon on the scene of the initial confrontation, based on our Forensic Services Division's tireless work and examination. He then flees. There is a second confrontation with our officers, as you know, on 210. I have a number of officers who have stated clearly Mr. Tyndall exits his vehicle armed with a handgun. A number of shots are exchanged, and what I will say to you is that we have collected numerous shell casings. Our officer's weapon was not fired at the site of the initial confrontation, but there are a number of rounds missing from our officer's weapon, which was found in Mr. Tyndall's possession. Right now, my Forensic Sciences Division is going to work through the night, comparing those shell casings to the shell casings of the officers who we know engaged him. And when I have the outcome of that forensic analysis, I will share that with my community. Lastly, before I answer questions, a very harmful narrative has been advanced that this is somehow the product of a relationship between our officer and his neighbor. A very harmful narrative has been advanced. I have absolutely no evidence to corroborate that. Whatever this man might have said to his family members about his relationships and the circumstances surrounding his engagement with the criminal law system, I cannot account for. But I have evidence vis-a-vis information from today's victim, from a cell phone, and other evidence that corroborates the account of both the intended victim from today, his current estranged wife, and from the widow that roundly disputes these allegations. My community knows me. When I have facts, you will have facts. And there's nothing that corroborates this. Our officer lost his life saving the life of the intended victim today, period. Our officers, deputies from Charles County, and the Prince George's County Sheriff's Office officers who intervened are to be credited because it's very likely, based on the behavior that's been described to me at that second confrontation, that other lives could have been lost. I have no reason to doubt the intentions of the officer we have lost, and I fully support the actions taken by our officers and those other officers with us today in resolving a very dangerous situation. I want to thank the President of the Fraternal Order of Police for being with me throughout this entire process. I want to thank my Assistant Chief who returned from New Orleans today to be with me to help this institution through this. I want to thank my deputies. I want to thank the County Executive and the State's Attorney. I want to thank the Governor for all of the outreach. I ask for your consideration for a family. And as I said before, no fact will be kept from the public's knowledge. I have no information to corroborate the narrative that's been advanced. If I do, you'll know. If I don't, I respectfully ask you to not advance this narrative. Do you have any questions?
When you said the officer was home, was his family, any members of his family home at the time of the incident? The officers?
No, they were not.
Okay.
Chief, did the Corporal Ramsden respond to the incident with a service revolver? Did this man somehow wound up with it? Did he have it in his hand? What do you know about that?
Our officer was approached approximately 24 hours prior. The intended victim in this and our officer had lived in proximity with each other for approximately 4 years. They did not have a relationship. They had not formed even a friendship. She had noted that he parked his marked police car next to his home. She had sought protection of the courts, and the courts and the sheriff's office were in the process of providing that protection, but was in the process of trying to get some of her belongings out of his home. He had had a conversation with her briefly, as I said, less than 24 hours ago. When he observed her across the street today, he approached her, asking if she was okay. She had some concerns. He offered to go in and allay those concerns. There were 2 other individuals there at that time who corroborate this entire account. We've spoken to them. He is outside with her after they have looked into her concerns within the home. When he is confronted, there's an initial volley of 3 shots. There's a pause. There are 2 more shots, and that is the end of the gunfire. It is our belief, and what I know for a fact, I will share this with you, but it's our belief at this point, based on the circumstances, that he is grievously injured in that first volley of 3 shots.
So he had his service revolver.
He had his weapon with him, as well as his police radio. He had called for further assistance, and that was the last transmission we received from him.
Chief,